Next, we're going to bring up Representative Phil Amato, who introduced a bill last year regarding personhood with regards to AI. And so, like I said, this is so important because I think it has a lot of societal impacts from what we're doing and what we're facing in our education systems. You know, we just saw, it's actually kind of ironic, yesterday, a story came out about how college graduates are now finding it harder to find entry-level jobs because of AI.
Yeah.
And so this is going to have a huge impact on college loan defaults and things of this nature. And so, you know, we're going to have to.
As you can see by looking at me with the gray hair and absence of hair that I'm getting older. So part of that responsibility of being older is you seem to go to more funerals than you go to weddings anymore. So this all started that I found myself at a funeral, and after the funeral I was invited to the luncheon, and by happenstance I happened to be sitting next to a great conversationalist, and we got to talking about was he from Missouri, did he still reside here, and it turns out that he was a professor at the North Carolina University at Chapel Hill. And I asked him, what did he teach? And he said, AI and computer science. So my antennas went up. So we had a conversation in that regard of what he did and how he got there. And then he said, well, I took an early retirement because one of my students came to me and said that they had an idea to start an AI company, and would I retire as a teacher? I was tenured, had enough years in. Would I retire as a teacher and move from North Carolina to Silicon Valley in California and help this former student put this company together? He said it was such a great idea that I did that, and then we turned around and sold the company. He went in one direction and I went in another, and I started another AI company, and I've got offers on it now to sell it. So as he was talking, I finally said to him, I just kind of pushed my card over to him and I said, I'm in the state legislature, and the one thing that we're all having trouble on is AI and trying to get a handle on what it is or what it isn't. And if you sell your second company and would like to volunteer your time for your boyhood home in Missouri and help us out, I'm sure we would all appreciate your expertise. So the end of the luncheon, I didn't hear from him again for a couple months. So one day, I'm driving to Jefferson City. I'm from Arnold, Missouri is where I'm from, so I have District 113. I come up 44 and I'm cutting over Highway 50, and I'm right outside of Union. My phone rings, and it's this gentleman that I haven't heard from in about 2 months. And he says, Phil, I sold my second company, and I've been thinking about what you said. I think I'd like to help you and volunteer my time and help my boyhood home come up with some guardrails and things of what AI is and what it isn't. So we talked for the next hour as I was driving over Highway 50 with my Bluetooth there, so I didn't get in an accident. And one of the things that I did, well, two things that I told him. One is this AI is changing constantly, so we may not be able to hit a home run and hit it out of the park with one piece of legislation. It may take several in the long haul. And number two, I'm an older guy, as you know, so I didn't grow up with computers. What I know is what I picked up after school. So whatever we do, it's got to be dumbed down in such a way that everybody can get a grasp on it and not talk over everybody's head of what we're trying to accomplish or not accomplish. So anyway, I told him then that March the 1st is the last day that you can file legislation in the House. But if the piece of legislation isn't out of the House by spring break, it probably is not going to make it to the finish line. So we need to get it there as soon as possible, but don't put any pressure on yourself to put this thing together. So then again, I didn't hear from him a long time, but in the conclusion of the phone call, he said to me, Phil, if I put in an inordinate amount of time in drafting a thesis or a document that we could follow off of to get a piece of legislation, do you think you can get it to the finish line? So I said, well, I said, 2 years ago, we got 11 pieces of legislation passed in the House and the Senate and went to the governor's desk, and one of those 11 pieces was mine, and it was a squatters bill, and it had 64 co-sponsors. So yes, I think I probably feel confident enough that I think I can get it to the finish line. So again, I didn't hear from him for a while, so I'm coming back from a legislative session, the phone rings, and he says, I've got it. He said, Phil, I got about halfway in compiling this document that we could use as a template to follow, and he said, I finally decided to throw it away and start over because it kept resonating in my mind about what you said. Two things: dumb it down so all of us can get a grasp on it. Don't talk over our heads, and make it very, very simple. So he said, I threw it away, and I finally come to determination. I defined not what AI was, but what AI couldn't do. AI couldn't get married. AI couldn't sit on the board of directors of a company. And he said, once I started in that vein, then it all started coming together really, really quickly. And so I've got this document done, and I'd like to send it to you, which he did. When I got it at the Capitol, I ran it off, and I took it to two people that I knew in the legislature. One was an engineer that ran power plants, had 500 people working for him. And I gave it to him because I knew he was really into computer technology. And I gave it to another gentleman that is in St. Charles, and he did consulting work and did stuff with Boeing on computers and technology. So I gave both the printed documents to these two gentlemen and said, please do me a favor, it's 14, 15 pages, please read this and give me a background and a response of what do you think I've got here. Both of them came back very, very shocked of what it was and how simple it was and how easy it was to follow. And the gentleman from St. Charles said, who did this document? And I said, a gentleman that was a professor at North Carolina that taught AI and computers. And he said, Phil, this is unbelievable. So he said, you've got to get a piece of legislation formed off of this. Now, at the Capitol, for you that do not know, down in the basement is where all the action is. That's where the PhDs and research and the young warriors are when they take our ideas and they craft them in pieces of legislation. So I sent it, and my email had my legislative assistant that I work with send it down there. Normally, if they've got a question, they'll send you an email back, or they might even have you come down there to explain a little bit more in detail about what you're trying to accomplish. This researcher came to my office, which has never happened before, and said, who did this document? Which was the same thing that the two gentlemen had read it. And I told him, and he said, why did you get this thing to me 2 months ago? I said, I just got it 2 days ago. I said, you've got it as fast as I've got it. He said, man, I'm gonna have to work overtime, whatever. I'm so intrigued by this piece of, this 14, 15 page document that I wanna get this thing out and so you can get it filed in this session. So he did. And so the bill was, let me make sure I can remember the number, was House Bill 1462. So if you go on the Missouri House of Representatives and you go down to Amato, which is spelled with an A, A-M-A-T-O, and then you roll down to what the legislation that I sponsored last session, and you look at 1462, which is at the bottom, that's the AI bill. So once I got it, and I got it, I couldn't get it referred, it was too late. It was too late to do anything with it, but people started looking at it. This summer, I got a call from a senator's chief of staff that said, Phil, the senator's intrigued by this piece of legislation and wants to sponsor it in the next session. So I said, thank you very much. Is the legislation going to look the same? And I said, yes, we've went over all of that, and it looks like we're not going to move more than a word or two. It looks like it will be the same piece of legislation. So once you get a senator sponsoring a piece of legislation at the same time that a House member is doing it, the chances of it getting to the governor's desk goes up about 80%. Now, what committee were we going to ask the speaker to put this in? And it has been decided emerging issues was probably the committee that best fit this. So I've already had the meeting with Brad Christ, Representative Brad Christ, that's from the Crestwood area, South County Crestwood in St. Louis County, that this bill would be coming, and hopefully he can get it in and get it out. So he's anxious for it to come. We went to Winter Caucus. What does Winter Caucus do? We went to Jefferson City, and as a supermajority, we get together and we talk about the priorities for the next session, which will start in January. And in the discussion was this particular piece of legislation. I feel very confident that we're going to get a really good hearing on it, and we're going to get a lot of people talking about it. But in the meantime, once this thing went on the internet, and once it got filed, there's people that will comb the internet all over the United States. Somebody in Ohio did that, and they picked it up, and they were on Fox News about 10 days ago waving this piece of legislation saying, I've got this AI bill, I've got the answer to AI. The gentleman in Silicon Valley from California saw the report, called me on the phone, mad as he could be because he thought the guy from Ohio stole our bill, because he said, Phil, he didn't change 3 words in that piece of legislation. That's ours, he stole it. And I said, don't worry about that. That happens all the time. That's actually going to help us. Because when I stand up in the Winter Caucus, when we're discussing this, and I say, this bill is already being taken in Ohio, and it's our piece of legislation, so we don't want to fall behind on that, I said, we'll get more and more interest. So I think that this particular piece of legislation is so simple in its simplicity. It says what AI doesn't do, what it can't do. I think it's going to get a lot of play. A lot of people are going to gravitate to it. So I encourage you to read it. So December the 1st is the first day you can file new legislation. Soon as December 1st happens, all the legislation from the last session will disappear. So if you're going to look at 1462, make sure you do that before then, or wait till after December the 1st. And then it will be the first bill that I will file for the new session. It's an honor for me to come here today and talk to you. I hope we, with the 2 speakers that came before, and yes, it is a little scary, but I think in the simplicity of this bill, I think it will help us set some guardrails of what it can and can't do, of what we as a society want it to do and can't do, and I'm really appreciative. Thank you very much for the time. And one more time, News Talk STL 101.9, 101.9 or 94.1, and the interview will be played tomorrow night with Elizabeth, and she's here at 8 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
Could you repeat that House bill?
The House bill is 1462.
Okay.
So you go to Amato, you go to Missouri House of Representatives, go down to Amato, which being A, it's about the second or third person down. And you go over and you go down to the bottom where the bills are filed. And it's probably the last bill I filed, 1462. Yes, Elizabeth.
Phil, if you have a website, I can put your interview on your website. So
Yes.
you can go to your website once it becomes a podcast.
AmatoForJeffco.com is my website.
Okay, then we'll put that podcast on your website.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. If anybody, on my capital report, my hobby is writing books. I've written about 25 books. And so I write a capital report that a lot of people pass around at the legislature. Both sides of the aisle pass it around. They're telling me all the time. And I'm really appreciative of that because writing relaxes me and I enjoy it. So if you would like to be on my capital report, just go to, when you go to Amato, in the legislature, go down, contact Joyce Bush, which is a legislative assistant. She'll put you on the capital report. During the session, I send it out every week, but when I'm not in session, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. But it's electronically, don't cost you anything. Thank you very much for the time.